Good day everyone, this is the presentation of our group about the art forms during the Spanish colonization period. We all know that Spanish colonization lasted for more than 300 years, and many art forms up to this day has still a Latin or Spanish influence. Based on our tradition and culture, it is evident that the Philippines have been colonized by the Spaniards. And going back to the time that the Philippines have been occupied by these colonizers, they use art forms to communicate with the people and spread Christianity among the natives.
Religious art is artistic imagery using religious inspiration and motifs that is often intended to uplift the mind to the spiritual.
Now let's talk about lowland Christian art. It is a stylistic and cultural form of religious art that are originated in the Philippines during the Baroque period. It includes cruciform churches, unique culinary traditions, dress styles, and other form of expressions. It has also been used to represent the Christ's death and the fate of Western lowland guerrillas in art institutions such as Paul Fryer's Crucified Gorilla.
During the Middle Ages, Christianity was the dominant religion in Europe, and art was often used as a tool for communicating religious teachings to the masses. Always remember that contemporary arts are made to raise awareness for the issues or problems present during those past years. An example to this is the Crucified Gorilla by Paul Fryers. It is said that it is made to draw attention to the endangered Western lowland gorillas. Also, the artwork was intended to be provocative and challenge the Christian notion that animals are inferior to humans. Overall, lowland Christian art was an important part of the cultural and religious landscape of medieval Europe, and many examples of this art can still be seen in museums and churches throughout the region today.
Prior to the Spanish colonization of the Philippines, baybayin is one of the most popular, if not the most popular, out of all the ancient Filipino writing systems. It is believed that there were actually 16 Filipino writings including baybayin. So, hindi lang naman baybayin yung writing systems na meron tayong mga Pilipino, which kung pag-iisipan mo, makes sense kasi hindi naman sama-sama yung mga Pilipino sa isang lugar. Ano tayo? Pulo-pulo. So, may iba't ibang tribes or villages, and since hindi naman masyadong nag-i-interact yung mga villages na yon, gumawa sila ng iba't ibang writing systems na unique sa kanilang lugar. And example yan is yung Surat Mangyan, one of the recorded Filipino writing systems to date. Surat of Palawan, sa surat literally means writing, and Kulitan of the Kapampangan, which is deeply enthralled or related to mythologies. And baybayin, one of the most popular, it was commonly used in those who live in the coastal areas kasi nga coming from the root word baybay, which literally means seashore. So mostly yung mga gamit sa baybay is yung mga nasa seashore, mga coastal areas, yung mga malalapit sa tubig, tulad mga Tagalog, Ilocos, Pampangueño, mga Kapampangan, and yung mga Visayas. And even after the start of the Spanish colonization, baybayin was still used and was studied even was studied by Spaniards to better integrate, communicate, and teach Christianity to the Filipino society. So, hindi naman agad-agad na parang ginamit agad ng mga Spaniards yung language nila para magturo sa mga Filipino para may pag-communicate. Inaral din nila yung mga language natin, so para mas madali sa kanila na mag-integrate sa ating society. And dahil dito, baybayin is one of the most documented Filipino script, kaya siya rin yung pinakasikat na ancient Filipino writing system kasi yun din yung pinakaginamit ng mga Spaniards nung panahon nila. Pero over time, its usage began to dwindle after the Spaniards started to teach the Roman Latin alphabet to the Filipinos until they fully adapted to it. Yung Roman Latin alphabets, yan yung mga alphabet na ginagamit natin ngayon, yung A, B, C, D, yan. Yung mga symbol niya na ginagamit natin ngayon, yan yung Roman Latin alphabet. And dahil doon, dahil sa turo, dahil gusto ng mga Spaniards na yun yung gamitin natin, ay yun na rin yung inadapt natin na gamitin sa pagsusulat ng mga next na literatures natin. And wala rin naman tayong choice kasi at that time na under na tayo sa rule ng Spanish colonization. So parang one of the ways na rin yun para one of the ways of the Spaniards to maintain control over the Filipinos. And when the Spaniards came to the Philippines, other than spices, they also wanted to spread their religion, as I've mentioned earlier, or as I've implied earlier, and they did it in many ways, different ways actually. For example, they started to show their religion to architecture. So yung mga church, yung mga poste, mga pader, design dyan, that really shows their religion, and or sa songs, sa dance, sa theaters, sa mga plays, sa mga acting, ganun. And the best one is, for me, is the literature, in my opinion. Kasi kapag sa literature ka parang mas madali kasi magpakalat ng isang bagay through literature, kasi number one, hindi naman nabubura yung sinusulat mo dun sa libro or sa papel, unless syempre kung susunugin mo talaga siya, and mas madali siyang ma-mass produce at ipakalat kasi isang copy lang yung gagawin, isang original, tapos pwede mo na paggawa sa 10 o 100 tao, tapos kakalat na yung nakakalat. And unlike dun sa mga parang ipaparangal mo, hindi naman siya totally na isa-stuck sa utak ng mga nakikinig sa'yo. And I think pwede mo rin siyang basa-basahin kapag wala kang ginagawa, kasi siguro nung panahon ng mga Spaniards, wala namang masyadong technology nun, so walang masyadong way yung mga tao para palipasin yung oras. So one of their ways to kill their boredom is to read scriptures, literatures, and so on and so forth. And one of the examples is the Doctrina Christiana, which literally means the teachings of Christianity. Itong libro na to, it contains lyrics, commandments, sacraments, and any other religious materials na related sa Christianity. So yun nga, siguro ginawa nila to kasi nga mabilis mass produce, tapos babasa-basahin mo lang, and kung syempre hindi na lahat naman tayo curious, so parang maaakit tayo dun sa binabasa natin, mas curious tayo, and parang mas mabilis tayong may integrate dun sa mas mapapadali na tanggapin natin yung religion ng mga Spaniards. And it was printed in 1593 as part of the effort to introduce Christianity. So yun nga, it's part of the effort to introduce Christianity, and consists of 74 pages of text in Spanish, Tagalog, translated into Roman letters, Tagalog in original baybayin script. So kaya na-mention pa rin yung baybayin kasi meron ding mga copies ng literature na nakasulat sa original baybayin script. And this book and any other books, they were created using xylography or woodcut carving. So ginagawa nila yung ika-carve nila yung letters or yung text dun sa wood, tapos lalagyan na lang nila ng ink, tapos parang isa-stamp na lang nila dun sa mga papel. So parang ay much more efficient way than writing, kasi isang trabaho tapos stamp ka lang na stamp, and basta may ink ka, makapag-stamp ka na ulit. And syempre hindi lang naman religious works or religious related literatures yung meron nung Spanish colonization. Noon, meron din tayong Filipino map named Carta Hydrographica y Chorographical de las Islas Filipinas. It was a Philippine map created in 1734 by a Spanish priest, a Filipino engraver, and a Filipino artist. So, meron din tayong Flora de Filipinas in 1878, created by a botanist named Manuel Blanco. Compilation siya ng mga plants found in the Philippines. Yun lang.
And now let's talk about sculptures. During this time period, santos are one of the most common sculptures as they portray biblical characters that commonly made of ivory or either wood. And the santos serve as the facades of churches, meaning they are commonly found in the entrance or the facing of the churches. And the carrioza or the plateria, that is a pedestal used in religious Catholic procession, where an image is loaded. And the first Filipino sculptor in the Philippines was actually Juan de los Santos from San Pablo, Laguna, and notable for his creation of San Agustin Church during the Spanish period. Since Spanish is a Catholic or religious people, they want to build churches presentable and innovative and of course creative, and they use Chinese brushwork technique to make sculptures.
Now, let's talk about the architecture of the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. The arts that flourished during this period of time conformed to the demands of the church and the colonial state. Architecture in the Philippines hails from centuries long of absorbing influences from its colonizers, particularly the Spaniards. Being under the Spanish regime for more than 300 years, the Spanish colonial period brought a huge impact on the architectural style still seen on many structures like our churches, houses, government buildings and offices, and many others today. According to the PPT, Plaza Complex was introduced. It was said that the natives were forcibly relocated and villages constructed all around Plaza Complex in order to complete the colonization and Christianization mission. The relocation was used to organize and take control of the local population. The churches, the municipio or local government offices were located in the specific compound, which was designated as the Plaza Complex. Churches were built in cruciform following the shape of the Latin cross. Churches are Baroque in design, but Filipino design was still incorporated. Part of the goals of the Spanish colonization was to spread Christianity. With that, there was the need to build religious structures to support the growing number of devotees. The church, which was built in accordance with the specifications of the Spanish crown, established its significance in people's lives through imposing and all-around aesthetic appeal. During this time, cruciform churches in the form of the Latin cross were constructed. The Baroque style predominantly used in accord with the prevalent design of Hispanic churches. Some examples are the Morong Church of Rizal and the Santo Tomas de Villanueva Church in Milagao, Iloilo. There's also the Basilica Minor del Santo Niño in Cebu, dubbed as the birthplace of the Christianity in the Philippines. Also standing in the same location since 1565 is the Nuestra Señora de la Asunción in Ilocos and the San Agustin Church in Ilocos Norte. Those are also examples of Baroque churches. Lastly, the Bahay na Bato or Bahay na Tisa. Most commonly, Spanish colonial architecture was primarily characterized and seen in churches, but Filipino houses also evolved during the Spanish period. From the traditional nipa hut or the Bahay Kubo, it was replaced by Bahay na Bato or Bahay na Tisa, the upgraded version of the former. It basically had the same spatial arrangements and architectural principles of the Bahay Kubo, but what made it different, it was built using stone and other sturdier materials. That's all for the architecture of the Spanish colonial period.
As you can see there, the designs are European-inspired local interventions have been employed in order to suit native sensibilities and adjust to local environment conditions. In other words, the result is the fusion of both native and European elements, prompting some art historians to refer to the style as colonial Baroque.
Focus of contemporary Philippine architecture. Unlike classical Philippine architecture, contemporary Philippine architecture was not anymore mainly a product of foreign cultures. Instead, the innovation in design are ideas influenced by the environment around them. That's all. Thank you.
So sa music naman, one example nito is yung Passion or Pabasa that narrates about the Passion of Christ is introduced in 1742. Next is Umusbong or Yumabong yung Kundiman Filipino love song.
The Kundiman. Kundiman became a vehicle of conflict. The lyrics were that of unrequited love, except that the love object was the Philippines, who would be cleverly concealed as a beautiful woman. This was used in Spanish era as a means to express one's love for country and longing for freedom. The Kundiman was used in the way because Spaniards did not allow song pertaining to patriotism, the awit and corrido. Secular music was forced, the awit and the corrido. These were the two musical forms based on European literature history. Awit is a Tagalog word for a song, while the Spanish word corrido means a mythical story, usually sung to the accompaniment of a guitar in a pandango style. Corrido is a genetic name for Philippine romances. In Tagalog literature, an awit distinguished from a corrido basically by the number of syllables in each line. The corrido refers to metrical romances in octosyllabic or 8 syllables verse called harika, while the awit is an dodecasyllabic or 12 syllables verse called glosa.
Dance as an art is one of the durable strands interwoven into our life as a people to form the fabric of culture. Dance has existed since man came into being. It is through dance movements that people can communicate, for it has been a strong factor in the expression of one's soul and identity of character. It is also through dance that people can express their joys and sorrows, as well as their ideals and aspiration in life. Some of the folk dances in the Philippines were influenced by the Spanish. One of them is the polka sanayon. Polka sanayon means polka in the village. This dance came from the province of Batangas in the Tagalog region of the Philippine Islands. In the old days, it was very popular and was usually danced at all the big social affairs and at the town fiestas. The costume for the man is the barong Tagalog and black or white pants. The Maria Clara or Balintawa costume is correct for the woman. Next, tango. Usually refers to the Argentine tango, a dramatic ballroom dance, and the expressive music that goes along with it. The tango is known for being a passionate, emotional form of dance in which the dancing couple hold each other closely and make abrupt yet graceful movements. The accompanying music is equally dramatic and varied, often featuring many instruments such as violin, piano, and bandoneon, a type of concertina or small accordion. The word tango is of Latin American Spanish origin, probably from an African root word. Pandango is a Philippine folk dance which has become popular in the rural areas of the Philippines. The dance evolved from fandango, a Spanish folk dance which arrived in the Philippines during the Hispanic period. The dance is accompanied by castanets. This dance, together with the jota, became popular among the ilustrados or the upper class and later adopted among the local communities. In the early 18th century, any dance that is considered jovial and lively was called pandango.
I will be discussing the visual arts, specifically paintings in Spanish colonial period, where Spanish colonizers use arts to spread their culture in the Philippines, also their beliefs and religion, where they use arts from architectural design like yung mga church and dance also, pandango, music, for example, kundiman, up to visual arts. One of the great example of visual arts during this period was Heaven, Earth, and Hell, or in Filipino, Langit, Lupa, Impyerno, which depicts the Catholic faith of the Spaniards. Alam naman natin ang concept nito since most of us was Catholic, no? Our purpose on earth was to do good so that pag namatay na yung physical body natin, we will go on heaven. Kapag naging masama naman tayo while we are living, our soul will suffer in hell. Ganon yung pagkakaintindi natin dito sa heaven, earth, and hell. Kung yung mga Spaniards use arts to spread their beliefs and culture, Filipinos naman, nung period na yon, they use arts as a propaganda against unequal and cruel administration of the Spanish colonizers. Pag sinabi nating propaganda, it's a tool to influence other people beliefs. Where in time na yon, Filipinos demanded freedom and equality to the Philippines through the use of visual arts. One of the best example of propaganda during this period was literary arts ni Jose Rizal, The Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, wherein ipinakita ang malupit at hindi patas na pagtrato sa atin ng mga mananakop noong panahon ng Kastila. In fact nga ito pa nga yung nagpamulat sa atin na ipaglaban ng kalayaan natin.
The Basi Revolt, also known as the Ambaristo Revolt, was a revolt led by Pedro Mateo and Salazar Ambaristo on September 16, 1807, or actually 200 years ago, in response to the Spanish government's wine monopoly, which prohibited the Ilocanos from manufacturing and selling their locally made wine. It is a simple native Ilocano wine called Basi, but the Ilocanos here raised up their arms and launched a bloody revolt against the Spanish rule. The Basi Revolt by Esteban Villanueva, finished in 1821, is a part-portrait painting depicting the battle between Ilocanos and Spanish colonizer after the former took up arms against a wine monopoly and prohibition of the private manufacture of Basi.
Besides in literary arts of Rizal, paintings are also used as propaganda. Just like the spoliarium of Juan Luna and Virgenes Christianas Expuestas al Populatio ni Felix Hidalgo, na parehas nanalo ng medals in Madrid Exposition. Namangha pa nga si Rizal sa likang sining ng dalawang pintor na to at napasabi pa ng genius knows no country, where ang ibig sabihin niyang iparating na genius or talent is recognized and can exist anywhere regardless of their country or their nationality. Kasi nung time na to, minamaliit talaga tayo nung mga Spanish colonizers. Maliit yung tingin nila sa atin. Yung spoliarium, ang ibig sabihin niyan in Roman, basement of the Roman Colosseum where warriors are dumped. In spoliarium, gladiator pulling a dead body of a warrior. It symbolizes injustice, sufferings, and cruelty ng mga warriors. Parehas doon sa naranasan natin nung panahon ng Kastila, where wala tayong karapatan na ipaglaban yung mga sarili natin. Like under tayo ng Spanish colonizer. Next is Virgenes Christianas Expuestas al Populatio. It depicts helplessness and injustice among women, where women expected they would only take care of their children, do housework, and not work freely like men. In simple terms, women's capabilities are underestimated nung time na yon. And itong period din na to, parang umusbong yung pagka-contemporary art, because most of arts nung panahon na yon, they focuses on social issues. Social issues, yun nga yung inequality and cruelty na nararanasan ng mga Pilipino noong Spanish colonization.
España y Filipinas, also known as España Guinando y Filipinas and el Camino del Progreso, or meaning Spanish leading the Philippines on the path of progress, is an allegorical painting using two female figures to represent the colonial relationship between Spain and the Philippines. Juan Luna was an accomplished academic painter, and this painting shows his mastery of 19th century visual conventions. España y Filipinas was created in 1884 using oil on canvas.
So, lastly is yung theater. Mas na-develop earlier yung mga forms ng local theater kaysa sa literary fiction. Yung earliest form ng theater dati is yung shamanistic rituals, dances, and chants noong pre-colonial Philippine period wherein ni-replace or pinalitan ito ng mga ceremony and pageantry ng mga religious processions na inintroduce ng mga Spanish colonizers with highly embellished carrozas na nagko-contain ng religious tableaus of Catholic saints or mga santo and scenes from Bible. If nako-curious kayo ano yung carrozas, ito yon.
Zarzuela. Zarzuela is an operetta that features singing and dancing, interspersed with prose dialogue, which allowed the story to be carried out on song. So, zarzuela is basically a form of a musical theater wherein hindi lang acting yung ginagawa nila kasi may singing and dancing na involved. And mostly, yung singing and dancing na yun, sa introduction and sa outro, yung mga kadalasan ganon. And sometimes, may mga sinisingit din silang choreographies and singing sa kalagitnaan ng play nila. Depende sa flow ng performance. Next is Cenaculo. Cenaculo is a reenactment of Christ's passion and death. The first cenaculo or passion play was written in 1704 by Gaspar Aquino de Belen. So, cenaculo is based from the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So, naka-based siya sa Bible and pinaperform din ang cenaculo during Quaresma. Ang Quaresma naman ay after Ash Wednesday wherein may fasting na nagaganap for Catholics for in 40 days. So, during those days, yung cenaculo ay pinaperform and it lasts for 3 days in some places in the Philippines. And also, cenaculo stands as a metaphor sa paghihirap ng Philippines during Spanish colonization.
Comedia. It is a theoretical tradition by Filipinos, sometimes in a form of singing. It describes conflicts between Christian and Muslim. It was used by Spanish to promote Christianity in the Philippines. There are two types of comedia. First, religious comedia is also called Comedia de Santo, centered on the life of Christ or of any saint. It usually seen during church celebration. Second, secular comedia is performed at local fiesta. Example is Santa Cruzan. The story involved on the search for the Holy Cross by Queen Elena at her son Emperor Constantino.
Additional info lang, so na-mention last time na yung cenaculo and comedia ay very popular siya during the Spanish colonial period. Several groups in many parts of the country still nagpe-perform pa rin sila ng both comedia and cenaculo. In the municipality of Santa Ana sa Metro Manila and San Dionisio, Parañaque, several members ng family, barangay, and villages ang sumusunod sa local parish church to stage cenaculo and comedia respectively. So, these theatrical art forms are handed down to children or tinuturo siya normally as a form of panata or devotion to the church. Yung costumes naman nila ay sponsored ng affluent or wealthy families, yung mga mayayamang pamilya. And hindi ito considered as a privilege but a display of social status in their community. Sa mga bayan sa province ng Pampanga at Tarlac, yung cenaculo hindi pinaperform in either Kapampangan or Ilocano way, but a full staging of crucifixion or pagpapako sa krus. Itong yearly event na to, hindi lang ito yung pinapanood basta-basta sa theater, but it is considered as major tourist and media attraction. Sa Nueva Ecija, yung cenaculo, tinatawag itong aragyo or arakyo. Pinaperform siya throughout 7 days of Holy Week. And lastly sa Iligan, yung Comedia de San Miguel is still very pinaperform siya as San Miguel or Saint Michael since ayun yung patron saint ng city nila. And that will be the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening and have a great day ahead.